Hey folks, here we are again as we are continuing through the New Testament together. And of course today we are reading in Luke 15. And in Luke 15 we actually have this parable that Jesus tells. It's a parable that you and I are familiar with. It is the parable of the prodigal son, and it truly is, our devotional thought process is a short story of grace, and that is how I want us to think about it today for a few moments together. You know, often our desires are to go against the ways, against the will of the Lord. We will know His expectations, but yet we choose to live waywardly. And when we choose to live for ourselves instead of living for the Lord, we become like the prodigal as we separate ourselves from obedience. And often this story teaches us how God uses our selfishness and our stubbornness to really awaken us to this moment of recognizing our need for His grace and for His mercy. And so as the story tells, it opens about a son who is the younger son, and he really shows us this selfish nature. If you'll remember, he goes to his father and says, "Dad, give me my inheritance right now." And in the first century equation, this would be like, "Dad, just go ahead and die. I don't care about you. Just give me what you're going to give me and just have nothing to do with me. I want to live as if you're dead." And the father loves his son so much that he doesn't withhold that, but yet gives him his inheritance. And the Bible tells us that the younger son goes and lives in wayward living, lives for himself, lives it up by the ways of this world. And there comes this pivotal moment when all of a sudden that all of his inheritance is gone. It's gone. He's left with nothing. And he is lying there with pigs, unclean animals, desiring to even eat what they're eating. So he's desiring to eat that which is unclean, that is made for the unclean. And he has this moment of revelation when he says, "I would rather be a servant in my father's house." It's this moment of revelation, this moment when he recognizes that it's better to be on not even son status, but servant status in his father's house. And so the Bible tells us that he got up and he went home. And you know, if that was a story alone, it would be a powerful story because we would recognize that he has recognized his position of sinfulness. But it tells us that the father saw him at a distance and he sprinted to him. And I'm sure the son had recited this, "Dad, I am sorry," and had this whole speech. But the father said, "It's okay. You're forgiven. My son who is dead is home." And he brought him back in grace and in mercy. And it's not that the son deserved it because he didn't deserve it, but he did it because of his undying and unselfish love for his son. And so there's this undeserved mercy and grace that is poured out. But let's remember the other son in the story. And when you read the story, don't miss that, because a lot of times we live in righteousness, but it can be like the other son because we want to judge others and we want grace and mercy to be withheld from others. But the amazing truth is that even the wayward, the Father welcomes them with grace and mercy. And it doesn't matter if we get it or not, but we need to learn to live in that truth and extend grace and mercy like the Father's extended to us. And so I hope as you read Luke 15, you see how grace and mercy are blanketing that chapter. And as you do so, just think about something like this. In what ways have you been like the wayward son who is stuck in selfishness and he has given you grace and mercy? And when have you been like the older son who needs grace and mercy, but you can't receive it because you're so stuck in legalism and righteousness or self-righteousness instead of who Christ is? We'll see you tomorrow as we finish the week and read into Luke 16.